This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's from Madagascar. We'd like to hear what you think about that as we start.
And two things about Madagascar, right? Majority of vanilla consumed across the world comes from Madagascar. If you want to visit or view King Julian, also known as the lemur, only in Madagascar. So let no one ever tell you that they have lemur. You can only see it in Madagascar, right? And it is also the fourth largest island in the world, right? But let's go to the proverb, shall we?
Yes.
Better to lose small bits of money than to lose bits of friendship. Better to lose small bits of money than to lose bits of friendship. Ladies, go first. How would you interpret that?
Better to lose small bits of money,
Yes.
than to lose
Bits of friendship.
bits of friendship. What I think about that
Yes.
is that we are valuing friendship over valuables. Yes.
We
should.
How would you interpret that?
I think those are two things. We're talking about money, we're talking about friendship. They can work together or they can work at crossroads, as it were. Better to lose money than to lose bits of friendship. Money you can always get. If you lose a bit of money, you can come back to the drawing board and, scratch your head and get some more money. Maybe
Get
even
loads of
more
it, yeah.
than what you lost.
Yeah.
But when you lose friendship, it's a completely different ballgame because friendship connotes trust. You have gone through some things together. There is a bond that joins you. And once that trust, that friendship is lost, unfortunately, you lose a lot. And sometimes there are friends who are closer than brothers, actually. So I would rather lose that money than lose friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well put.
Well put, absolutely. And when we look now into this conversation that we're having this morning, contraception and family planning has been in our minds for the longest time. We've thought about it, we've talked about it, groups have been formed, people have gone to school, they've studied it, people have sat in their homes and come up with methods that have then become world renowned and people swear by them. Can we start off with a little bit of a description first so that we can understand what we are saying? Because when we heard family planning before, people said that is stopping you from having children. Or now you employ family planning because you already have 3 children, you don't want any more. What are we talking about? Let's start off with you, Dr. Ari.
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting topic, quite controversial sometimes in some areas, but I think it's good that we talk about this and we actually discuss about it. When we talk about contraception, just the name itself, the word itself is contra and deception. So it's against conception. And sometimes we use contraception interchangeably, contraception and family planning. Now, there are different ways of, there are different methods of contraception. Mostly when we think about contraception, we think about women. Rarely do we think about men. Simply because the first contraception pill was, I think, manufactured in the 60s, I think around the 50s, 60s then. And it brought a huge change. It was a paradigm shift when it came to sexuality, especially in women. Because before that, there was a bit of puritanism. Women have to do this. You have to stick with one partner, etc., etc. So that expression of sexuality, having intercourse with a person of your choice without the fear of getting pregnant. I think that was the biggest thing because, as we know in some societies, even now, getting pregnant outside of marriage is actually a stigma. These ladies are ostracized. We also have teenagers who get pregnant and they are kicked out of their homes and their lives are completely turned upside down. So when, with the inception, with the beginning of contraception, the women had a different outlook about intercourse. They could have it freely without the fear of getting pregnant or the fear of being ostracized, because if you are having some work behind closed doors and God forbid you get pregnant, it will appear at some point. As Chinua Achebe says, you cannot hide a pregnancy with your palm or with your hand. So with that era came different methods of contraception. Some of the methods which have been suggested by very conservative, areas are, for example, abstinence. So you abstain as a method of contraception. Sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't work, because there are hormones which are bubbling in that body, and it's physiological that you have that feel of having intercourse. For women, they said, well, you can use what is called the rhythm method, meaning you look at your cycles, look at your periods, and see when you are ovulating. When you're ovulating, then you avoid, having intercourse. But if you want to have a baby, that is the time you are supposed to have intercourse as often as possible. There's another method which is called the Billings method, where women are supposed to look at the vaginal discharge, and the vaginal discharge is supposed to change, or rather, it changes around ovulation time. It becomes slippery. It becomes, mucus-like, and so on. This is a physiological change which helps women to get pregnant. So if you want to get pregnant, that is the time. Again, a very unreliable method, because if your periods are irregular, then that discharge may not be there. If a woman has a period every 90 days, for example, I've had a patient who has a period once every 2 years. So obviously you cannot use that method as a method of contraception. Then we come to hormonal contraception, and in hormonal contraception we have combined oral contraceptive pills, where we have two hormones which are put together, and they try to mimic the reproductive cycle. We have pills which have only one hormone, and we also have patches which women can use once a week, for example. We have hormonal rings which can be inserted inside the vagina, and that is once every 3 weeks. We have a coil which can be used once every several years. It is embedded with a hormone, and it releases a hormone every day, and this can be used comfortably for several years. We have an injection, and the injection can be used once a month, or even once every 3 months. And then there are others which are, for example, we have female condoms. Horrible things, because the insertion, first of all, the insertion of that female condom, and then you say, okay, now it's time now to act. It sort of loses that spontaneity in the sexual act and so on. First of all, they are very clumsy, and women don't like them at all.
Who came up with these things in the first place?
Men, I think.
Men came up with it. Yes, try it out.
You can it's only men who can come up with such things. Anyway.
Just throw us under the bus.
Yeah. And then of course there are other methods. There is a coil which does not have any hormones, which is just we call it the copper T coil, which is one of the most preferred and used methods of contraception. And then we also have, all these are called reversible methods of contraception. And then we also have irreversible methods of contraception. And this, for example, is the cutting of the tubes, what we call BTL, bilateral tubal ligation. Usually this is a permanent method, and patients who come to request for this are patients who usually have finished their family. They have the right number of children that they wanted, and they don't want to have children anymore. However, we caution them that sometimes you may go down this route, and then after some time you may want to have another baby, and it's going to be a challenge, a huge challenge later on, because the reversibility is a challenge. Then we also have, but these ones are no longer used these days because of the complications that came with it, where we go through the womb, through the cervix and into the womb, and we go to the tubes and place something which is inert, usually metallic, and that provokes an inflammatory sort of process, and it blocks the tubes. Again, it's also a sort of a permanent method of contraception. We stopped using this method because of the complications. Sometimes when you're inserting it, you may puncture the tube itself, you may puncture the uterus itself, and then by doing that, you may end up puncturing the intestines, and the complications could be, horrible afterwards. The other method which can be used is called where we go into the womb and we remove the lining by a method called hysteroscopy. So we go in with an instrument and burn the lining and remove it, and also we can also use hot liquid, where we insert a balloon inside the womb, and that also does burn the lining as well. What happens is that in order for a pregnancy to occur, the lining of the womb has to be ready. That is why when you look at the cycle, the physiology, the way the female body behaves, is that at the beginning of the cycle, when a woman is having her period, there is an interplay of hormones, and these hormones lead to the production of an egg, and that production actually leads to a production of a hormone, a very important hormone, estrogen. And that estrogen builds up the lining in preparation for a baby to implant. Now, when we remove that completely, yes, the process may continue later on, but there will be no buildup of the lining. So essentially, there'll be no pregnancy as well.
Okay, Naomi, as you think about it, what would you say as a family planning specialist? You work with a lot of people. What is the most used and the most comfortable for people in terms of family planning today?
Most preferred is the female, the family planning methods for women. For instance, many are using long-term reversible methods. There are long-term reversible methods such as implants. We have Implanon, that is lasting for 3 years. It's not under your arm. There is another one for 5 years under your arm still. That's still an implant. There is a coil. Dr. has already talked about that. IUCD, intrauterine contraceptive device. There is and there are two. There is a copper T and there is a Mirena. The Mirena is hormonal, the copper T is non-hormonal. So people are preferring the long-term reversible methods because they can space their children for a long time. Usually you say 3 years and 5 years is a long time. You can space your child, you get another child after such a time. There are others, short-term, like there is a hormone injected for you that lasts in your body for 3 months. And then now there are pills that are monthly. You take daily pills. And then now the condoms are also there. So those are the most commonly used.
Okay, so they are cross-board.
They are cross-board. And there are others that are also, emerging. Like now, men are also coming into play to take up vasectomy. Vasectomy is a procedure that is performed on men to cut the tube that carries sperms from the testicles to the urethra during ejaculation. So when that vas deferens is cut, that transportation of sperm is inhibited.
And that's permanent?
That's permanent. Also, he spoke about tubal ligation, which also, that is for women now, also permanent. It's not reversible. Yeah.
So here's is a case where now we've spoken about what currently exists, and is a situation where women have for a very long time borne the brunt of dealing with family planning. But now we know that with research and development, there are new ways that men also can participate. And recently, there is that report that there are pills for men now that they would start also injecting. Or there's also the snip that many say, there's no way I'm going to a plumber to fix me up. I I don't want to be snipped. But Dr. let's just look at it from an aspect of men stepping up and playing their role in ensuring that that they also relieve their partners from what would be hormonal complications with regard to this. Just, are we seeing men also coming to plumbers to get fixed? And is that a conversation that we are ready to have?
I think that is a very interesting question, because when you look at the types of contraceptions for men, actually they are limited in number. Here we've talked about, the natural methods, the Billings method, the tablets, injections, implants, etc.
Yes.
So it's a wide array of these methods. But when you come to men, there are very few actually. So I think the market is skewed unevenly towards providing for women for these methods than providing for men. What is available for men, first of all? Number one, we mentioned about abstinence, which can also apply to men.
Yeah.
Does it really apply to men? I'm not very sure about that. I'm not very sure about that. Number two, there is coitus interruptus, meaning that instead of having an ejaculation inside the vagina, where during intercourse you ejaculate outside. It's
called pull out.
It's called pull out.
the
It's even condemned in the Bible, by the way. There's a gentleman called Onan, I think.
Yeah.
And he was told to do what he had to do, but then he decided apana hii kazi mimi sitafanya, so he ended up, and I think he was struck dead or something like that.
Yes, he was.
He was, yeah, and that's where we have onanism as a method of contraception, which doesn't work very well. Why? Because even before ejaculation, there is some fluid which can precede the ejaculate itself, and this can also have sperm. So in some societies they say use this as a method because it's a natural method, it's religious and so on. You cannot use a method which fails 98% and call it a method.
What would be the rate that we're looking for? At least 50%. Then you can say it is a method. What would be a method?
Actually, conversely, when you look at for example, combined oral contraceptive pills, we are looking at about anywhere between 1 to 4% failure rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's got to be 90 plus.
It's 98%. I mean, how can you call it a method when
Yeah.
it fails 98% of the time? So that is also another method. Then you also come to the mechanical things that we have, and the most common one is the condom. And we know that condoms sometimes, they burst during intercourse. They can have holes, and so on. You end up having pregnancies which were unintended, and so on. We talk about hormones. Women, we have all these hormones. And by the way, maybe for the audience, maybe people who don't understand what a hormone is, excuse me. A hormone is basically a chemical which has protein, which is a protein in nature, and it helps to modulate or to act on a cell or even on an organ in order for this organ to be able to function normally. For example, we have growth hormone. I'm just taking a very simple example, which in children it's at a very high level. Why? Because all the organs in the body of that baby have to grow with time. When you check growth hormone in myself or in us, that growth hormone will be very little. Why? Because our cells keep on dying and we keep on producing new cells, and these new cells also need to grow, but not at a fast as a rate which is compared to a baby, for example. So when it comes to hormonal contraception in men, we also have a challenge. There have been trials where you use a gel. A man has to use a gel, spreads it on his chest on an everyday basis. What basically happens is that in that hormonal gel, there are two hormones. There's progesterone, which acts negatively against the other hormones. So there's something we call a negative feedback mechanism, such that if there is a certain level, if a hormone level exceeds a certain threshold, the brain sends a message and says, boss, ini kubwa sana, eburudisha, it stops it from working. So that is the method that is being used to try and propagate hormonal contraception for men. It doesn't work very well. There is an injection. testosterone injection. We know that with testosterone, with an increase of testosterone, the same mechanism. When you inject testosterone, it increases in the blood circulation. It reaches a certain threshold, the brain switches it off. So there'll be no production of sperm. But then there are also side effects to that. For example, with the testosterone, for example, you may have acne, excess of testosterone, it may lead to acne. Some of these other complications can be, weight gain. There can also be loss of libido as well. No man wants to have loss of libido in lieu of contraception. It doesn't work that way. Completely, and so on. So we are a bit cautious when they say, "Allah, nikitumia hii," and then in the bedroom things are going to change. Mimi sitaki kitu kama hicho. There is what we call IVD, that is intravenous device, whereby Naomi has talked about a vasectomy, and the vast difference is the tube that where she rightly said where the sperm passes through before it comes out. There is what you call a non-touch or a non-surgical method of vasectomy, where you use a small device, and with that device you almost don't cut per se, or the patient doesn't feel the cut. So we use the same device is used to insert a tiny device in the vas. And then that device is supposed to stop the sperm from going through. How many men will have that device done, inserted? I highly doubt. Now, at the end of the day, you will also have to remove it in order for it to reverse the process. But remember, if you're going to insert something which is foreign into an organ, the body will act on it, because it will realize that there is, quote unquote, an enemy. So you may end up having maybe infection, you may end up having some fibrosis and so on and so forth. But be it as it may, it is something which has been thought about. Then there is what we call reversible inhibition of sperm under guidance, meaning something is injected into the same place, the same vas deferens, and then this whatever has been injected there stops sperms from coming through. Now, in order to reverse that injection, something else has to be injected into it.
It's a lot of injecting.
A lot of injecting.
My goodness.
Are we happy to do that? I don't think so. There is a vaccine. People have thought about a vaccine. In the last, I think, several months, people have been talking about vaccine, which is a very good thing. And basically, a vaccine is the purpose of a vaccine is to employ the immune system such that it works against something. So we can use, it's a theory, we can use the immune system, have a vaccine which can be reversible at some point in time, maybe have it work for maybe a year, 2 years, and after that it stops working and the body, reverses to where it was. It's a theory. I don't know whether it will work. Now, I think it was last week when they published a very interesting article in Nature, where they have come up with this pill, which is non-hormonal. First of all, a big tick for that, because it's not going to have any effects, hormonal side effects. On men. Yes. We're talking about men. So what they were testing, and this was the first stage of testing this pill, was basically, does it have any side effects? That's all. And they actually noted, very small study, I think it was about 16 or 20 gentlemen, and they gave them different doses of this pill, and then they followed them for several months, and there were no complications at all. And they did something interesting. They took men who had had a vasectomy. Naomi, hello. Men who had had a vasectomy. Why they did that is because they didn't want, because they don't know exactly whether this pill can affect the production of sperm. So in order for them not to have, sort of a bias, they took men who are not producing sperm. So let us see whether it will have any side effects. No side effects. So the next stage of clinical trial now should be to look at the efficacy. We look at men who have who are normal, who are producing sperm. Let's give them different doses. Let's also give them a placebo, and then follow them and see whether there will be a reduction of sperm. And if it is the reduction is there, by what percentage? Does it go to completely zero? And if it goes to completely zero, and then we stop giving them this pill, will there be a reverse? Hapo ndio kutakuwa kizungumkuti. Because they don't know.
Okay.
And I don't know whether men will want to say, I'm not very sure whether it will be reversible. So it will be interesting to see.
Well,
absolutely.
Let's take a break and then come back. And then we'll hear from you, Naomi, in terms of what people have said they're comfortable with or not, and whether this is something that would be. Because for years, the side effects on birth control for women has been crazy. And that's one question that some questions are coming in around that, and we'll probably deal with that when we come back from break, in terms of what side effects birth control rather has on women. And if we're looking at a non-effectual birth control that can be used on men, then what are some of the inhibitions that we're already seeing? So we'll come back and discuss that in just a short while. We are having our Healthy Friday conversation around, birth control and family planning this morning with Dr. Omanwa and Naomi Ochoka. And we're asking certain questions. We'll come back and we'll discuss them when we come back from the break. And I asked you at the beginning of this, have you gone to your Loop app? If you haven't, now is the time to do so. Go to your Loop app, click on the Grow tab, and then tell us.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour. Enjoy fresh chicken leg quarter at 459 shillings per kg. Red grapes 500 grams at 299 shillings. Dollar all-purpose home baking flour 2 kg at 119 shillings. And higher washer 12 kg at 86,995 shillings. Deals kibao kila wiki na Carrefour.
Posted yesterday? Still no calls? Your brand deserves more than silence. Get seen, get sales, get into hashtag Tukosoko. Just 6K puts your biz in front of 5 million people in just 2 days. Ads on Standard Digital, traffic, visibility, results. Tukosoko. Call or WhatsApp 0704 565545. Let's sell something. Your hustle, our platform, we've got you.
Wewe toka mimi wewe. Mimi nataka kwanza toka hapa. Unataka kulipa?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Coming tender, headaches, migraines. You can have migraines. They may even change, some of them may change the bleeding. They may stop, or there will be a change in bleeding. For instance, if you're which one do we want to discuss first of all? Maybe which one is your favorite? You can pick on one.
Oh, me personally,
Yes.
I don't have a favorite, but maybe you can tell us one of the most commonly ones. That
All right, let me pick on an implant, for instance. Once you get an implant, you may experience bleeding changes. Sometimes, for some people, like I said, it's not going to be obvious that it's going to change. So sometimes you may get it, sometimes you may not get it, depending on an individual. So once you get an implant, to most people, it's going to work just well. Or in a few cases, you can have bleeding. Like if your period is for 3 days, you can have prolonged bleeding. It can go maybe 7 days. Or if you used to use, you can measure the amount of bleeding using the pads you use per day. If you used to use 2 pads, sometimes you may have to use more, or sometimes it can even reduce. Where is this coming from? The mechanism, the way this family planning is going to work on your body. It's meant to change the way your cycle is going to operate. So the bleeding may be there or not, and some people may just have no side effects at all.
Seems to me like this family planning contraceptive thing is a terrible thing then.
Not necessarily, if I may say.
Yeah, I mean, if it's giving you side effects, you're going to get weight gain, you're going to bleed irregularly, you're going to then feel nasty all the time. All of this that you don't have a
mood
baby.
changes.
Mood changes. I mean, come on.
Let me chip in if you don't mind.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Now, it's true that you've said it has been used for a long time. I think something which we have to take into consideration is that there is no one size fits all. Women are very, I don't want to say complicated.
Unique. That's the word you're looking for.
That is the one I was looking for. Thank you for that. They're unique. They're unique. And so before we even talk about the methods that we are going to use for the patients, we need to understand where they're coming from. Why do we want this method of contraception? Is there a preferred? What have they had? What knowledge do they have? First of all, so it's a discussion, number one, before we come to a conclusion. And then you lay down the types of contraception, which are on the table. They are the pills, and a pill, you have to use it every day, and so you have a certain level of you have to be very disciplined in a way, because if you use this pill today, for example, you're used to be taking it at around, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you forget. Tomorrow you remember at 1 o'clock. That is a problem. Why? Because the hormones have to be almost the same level throughout the cycle when it is being used. So when there is that dip, there is a chance that when you get this intercourse, then you're going to have you may get pregnant. So that level of discipline is important in the contraceptive pills, and it gets even more radical when it comes to the progesterone only pill, what we call Cerazette, which we usually use in women who are breastfeeding, because it has only one hormone, which is progesterone. Now, what is your level of discipline is not very good. Then contraceptive pills may not be very good for you. What options do we have? We have a patch. A patch, you put it on your shoulder, for example, or on your back, on the abdomen, and use it once a week. So you don't have to have that level of discipline when it comes to that. But you say, I may also forget, for example. Then we have another option. You have a vaginal ring, which you insert it once every 3 weeks. But even before we go there, once we have talked through these methods, we look at the pros and we look at the cons. Why are we using this? For example, you have very heavy bleeding with clots, for example, and what do we need to do? We need to stop this cycle so that we stop the bleeding or reduce it to a minimum, because it also has this heavy bleeding has also detrimental effects on you. You're feeling weak, you're feeling lethargic, you're feeling dizzy, you can't think because of the huge amounts of blood that you're using. So use something that will block this cycle. Now, let's look at the side effects which each method is going to have. Most of the time, depending on the type of pill that is being used, there are old pills, there are newer pills and so on, and there are fast 1 phase, 2 phase, 3 phase type of pills and so on. Which are the ones which are available? These are the ones which are available. Now, most women, we say, I don't want to gain any weight. We say that is fine. And why do women gain weight when they are taking pills? It is because of the mechanism of the hormones in their bodies. And it is basically retention of fluid. These hormones work on the kidneys, and they retain fluid. And because of retention of fluid, these women will feel bloated. They will feel like they have gained weight. And this actually is very common, especially in injections. Depo-Provera, for example, and the implant as well. Now, we also tell them, look, with the implant, when you take the implant, in as much as it's very convenient, you will forget about contraception for 3 years, even 5 years. There are some things which you need to take into consideration. Number one, you may have what we call intermenstrual bleeding or spotting. Usually, this is across the board, whether it is patches, whether it is tablets. Most women will have intermenstrual spotting or bleeding. We tell them that is normal, that is okay, and it may be there for maybe the first 3 months, sometimes even up to 6 months. If you are able to withhold that, if you're able to be comfortable with that, then we can go for it. Sometimes, because this is a hormone, we're introducing something new to the body. You may have cramps, lower abdominal cramps, mild pain, and so on. This is basically transient. It will pass and everything will be okay. You may have, that breast tenderness as well. It is also something which is transient. Do ask a very interesting question about clots. That is why this history is important. Do you have any major diseases, chronic diseases, hypertension, for example? Do you have diabetes? Have you ever had any, let's say, immune system diseases and so on? Because then we can tailor down this contraception to that patient. If a patient has had a clot in the past, then obviously the combined oral contraceptive pill is out, completely out. Why? There is a higher susceptibility of her having a clot again, and obviously we don't want that, because that can be fatal. If you have high blood pressure, for example, the pill, also the combined oral contraceptive pill, is also not for you. If you have delivered and you feel like the pill is for you, can we give combined oral contraceptive pill? No, we can't. Why? Because one of the hormones, estrogen, will get itself into the bloodstream, into the milk, and the baby will actually get estrogen. And what are the complications of estrogen? We have what is called precocious puberty. So that baby starts growing breasts, for example, starts doing this and so on. Do we want that in your baby? No, we don't want that. So we'll tailor this, this contraception to that. So before we give any contraception, the most important thing is the history, and then we talk through it. It is not the doctor has said, so this is what you have to take. It is a conversation. And again, when we go down to to Mashinani, for example, quite a number of things will dictate what contraception a woman will use. And number one, accessibility. Are they accessible? Are all these methods accessible? Are they available? Are they affordable as well? And also, there are also cultural and family and religious aspects also which come into play. So all these things have to come together so that we can be able to choose a good contraception for the patient.
So, Naomi, let's talk about when clients come to you for advice. Now, here's a question where a woman has gone to Daktari, has received that advice, and there is now the aspect of a woman coming with a partner to you for advice, so that both of them are aware of what is happening. Are we seeing more numbers of men accompanying their partners as they come for advice, or the numbers are still low? A man part and parcel of these conversations and decisions being made?
Men are encouraged to be part and parcel of the conversation. If that is happening, is another conversation. Some men are embracing this. When it comes to family planning, it's a family responsibility. Like for you and your spouse need to think about this, because if you don't, then how are you gonna handle your partner when they're going through these side effects? Dr. has mentioned one of the side effects being like weight gain. So you realize that someone who was maybe chubby, now they're using a contraceptive, they start losing weight, because it can happen both ways. You can lose weight, you may gain weight. And then your partner is starting to worry, you're changing, yeah? So if they came, like if at the very start, both of them came to the doctor to ask, Daktari, we are interested in a family planning method. Then they are taken through, their history is taken, and then together they identify a convenient family planning method for whoever is taking, if it's the wife or if it's the husband. Then you realize that they're gonna embrace this method more than if one person came by themselves. Sometimes when one spouse comes and the other one didn't come, could it be maybe in secret, or maybe the other partner didn't find time? So this one partner, when they're in this at the doctor's clinic, they decide or they realize this is what is good for me. But when they go back home, the partner has different views. So you realize that they're not able to keep this method for a long time. Assuming it was an implant, assuming it was an IUD, then the spouse is going to say, I don't like what you have. Go and have it removed. Yeah. So you realize they're not able to embrace it for a long time. So what we're doing is that we're encouraging the male partner. They've not maybe for a long time, probably because of religion, because of culture. They're not, they feel like they shouldn't be part of the conversation. But we're saying, hey, no, it's time. Men also started being part of the conversation. A company.
Well, one would imagine, because they're part of the process. So, I mean, and even as you do that now, with this new option, which Daktari has told us that is, it has no effects on men.
Yeah.
With the new option for contraception then to be taken by men, why would it pose as an issue? No side effects. All you would need to do was swallow the medication in the morning or whatever time that needs to be done, and you're good to go. What's the problem?
I don't know why Dr. is laughing, but he's a man.
I think let me answer like a man. Yeah. I think we are here with Dennis. Took a 50-50, so we are okay.
What's the problem?
I think there are things which we have to overcome mentally as men, because generally, as we said, contraception has always been viewed as a female thing. Men can sort themselves out, in quotes. So I think that thing of waking up in the morning, let's say my wife is also taking contraceptive pills. Sasa ebu meza yako na pia mimi ni meza yangu. So no, that sort of thing. A lot of advocacy is needed in order for men to actually accept that we are part of this process and we need to be in this boat together, and that whatever we are taking, if God willing that this works out, this non-hormonal pill works out, and that it has no side effects, and we are really, really waiting with a lot of anticipation that it is actually reversible, and after using it for, let's say, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever period of time, once you stop using it, the process of production of sperm is okay. What are men worried about? What do we worry about? For example, talking about vasectomy, I think the uptake is about 3, maybe 4% only.
Yeah.
And the thought of going to be snipped, just the thought of it, I mean, it's just...
It's emasculation.
That is what we think.
That's what people think
in their minds.
Yes, in their mind. That once that snip has taken place, bas mimi siwezi kufanya kazi yangu, which is also not true. Kazi inaendelea kufanyika, but you can salute, of course. The only thing is that most probably you will not have any sperm production. Why am I saying most probably? Because after the snip, the first 3 months, patients are advised to use another method, because there could be residual sperm which could come out during intercourse, and then of course I think that is the biggest barrier? That we are worried I will have low libido, and then I will have erectile dysfunction, and there is no man who wants to have low libido and erectile dysfunction, especially when it's voluntary. No?
You know, this is coming with we're in a society where myths are, taking the day, misconceptions. You know, some people would think, if I go for vasectomy, am I going to be castrated?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Am I going to have impotence after that?
Yeah.
But we're saying no, because education is important. You know, that's why you say the society needs to be informed, like be educated about what is this vasectomy. When it happens, when you've undergone vasectomy, what does it feel like? And we're here to actually demystify some of those myths and say that once you've undergone vasectomy as a man, you're still able to, be a man. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is that the sperms that are produced in the scrotum, they will not be able to reach the woman because that road has been cut off.
I reckon there's going to need to be a whole lot of education.
Education.
Information sharing, much more than actually getting men to put the pill in their mouth. I think that's going to be the end of the tunnel.
It's going to be a challenge.
Everything before that is going to be, and literally it's going to be years of work.
Yes.
It's probably going to take just as long as they got to get to the clinical trials in the first place.
Absolutely.
To convince men that this is safe and that doesn't emasculate you in any way. This is taking the pill. I'm not even talking about a vasectomy. I mean, that's been in the conversation
and
for a very long
it's
time.
reversible.
And that it's reversible.
It's reversible. Yeah, it's reversible.
Yeah, when you take the pill, it's short term.
Yeah, so when you stop, you go back to
when you stop it, you're back to your fertility.
Yeah.
You know, it only stops fertility at the time when you're swallowing the pill. The moment you stop, you're back to yourself. But vasectomy is long term.
It is permanent.
Permanent. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, we can't ever have enough information, and it's, if anything, it's very clear this morning that there's still a lot that we don't know, and that there's still a lot of advocacy that needs to be done in the area of family planning generally, because like my take says, 16 children, 20 children, you can't do that anymore. And even if you want to space your children, what are we looking at? Thank you both for being here this morning to join us on our Healthy Friday conversation.
Thank you.
Dr. Kideki Omanwa and Naomi Oshoka have been here with us this morning to have this conversation. Looking forward to many more.
Yeah, Asante.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This month,